All right, good afternoon, everyone. We're moving on to the next session of today. So what we got on the lineup is business transformation, optimization, and innovation, seizing growth and market expansion opportunity. Really excited for the lineup of panelists we're about to welcome on stage here. Just a few reminders, Q&A will be through the app. Feel free to submit Q&A, and it'll kind of come through the iPad up to the moderator. Otherwise, I think we're ready to get started. I'll go ahead and welcome the panelists on stage and turn it over to Denise to kick it off.
Really excited to have you all meet this esteemed panel of insurance leaders and executives. Before we get started, I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves and a little bit of background about their company. I'm first Denise Garth. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at Majesco.
Hi, I'm Lauren Pollock. I'm Head of Strategy at Convex US. And a little bit about Convex US for those who are not aware. We're a managing general agent here in the US. We're operating in the property and casualty and the E&S space. And we are owned by Convex UK, which is a carrier in London. And then most of our underwriting capital is coming from Convex UK.
Hi, my name is Craig Arneson. I'm Vice President of Ullico Casualty Group. We are a property and casualty MGA subsidiary of Ullico Inc. We are a property, casualty, life and health, and investment services financial services entity that serves strictly the unions in the labor space in the United States.
I'm Jim MacMillan. I'm the CIO for Vantage Risk. Vantage is a Bermudian-based company. We started 3 years ago with $1 billion of capital from Carlyle Group and Hellman & Friedman. We are in the E&S property and casualty space as well as in the reinsurance space.
All right, so first topic that we're going to talk about is really around this first phase of transformation. Each of these organizations have done that. So when we think about the pressures and what's happening in the marketplace and the combined aspect of all of that, it's really creating a wedge of need for change. And that really kind of focuses on first transformation, that then you can optimize the business, and then you really can start innovating. But this first focus of transformation, it's really not just about the technology, it's the business model and the technology foundation. So could each of you had a very different strategy and approach to that, and I think that really gives the audience here a perspective that you can kind of start in different ways. So what I'd like each of you to do is to describe your strategy and approach, and what were the business drivers, what were the technology drivers, and then kind of the scope of your first implementation. You want to start?
Sure,
Lauren?
absolutely. So Convex US got into the market roughly 2 years ago. Our strategy was, as we were seeing the E&S market grow at double-digit growth rates, we really wanted to be able to capture the US business that was not going through to London. Traditionally, a large portion of the US market does not get brokered through London, and we wanted to be able to have that distribution here in the US. So we set up 7 different lines of business that were complementary to our lines of business in London, and absolutely did not want to have to compete against what we're doing in London. So clearance was one of the first things that we needed to have in place. We really started with what we thought of as brilliant basics. So how can we get into the market, do everything regulatory compliant, make sure that we have OFAC checking, sanction checking, checking with our underwriting platforms in London. And we wanted to have a policy admin system that was built on modern technology, that was fully API extensible so that we could link in other technologies as we needed. And what was most important is around that technology platform is that they really had the culture that could move as quick as we were trying to move. And with that, we launched an RFP process. We went through many different policy admin systems, and we came through to Majesco Core Connect, which was formerly a company by the names of DRC. And one thing that we absolutely loved about the platform is that their focus was really just on the policy admin, and that was a bit that they did great. And we got our first product into market about 3 months It was actually only 1 month after we hired our first underwriter, which was a professional lines underwriter. And it's been an incredible growth and transformation story for us.
And Craig, you've got a little bit of a different story because you've got a long history.
So Ullico Casualty Group has been around for nearly 50 years, and we were facing the challenge of a lot of legacy systems, fragmented data sources, and trying to find a way to modernize, to have something that was streamlined, web capable, being able to have people in remote places, being able to do work, and trying to get a more unified look at our customer base. And strategically, that was very important to us because in general, our affinity base is not one that is radically growing. We can't see natural revenue growth from the fact of that our market is growing. If you think about it, for the most part, the union space is relatively well defined. In the last few years, we've seen growth. Strategically, we knew we needed to be able to penetrate the market deeper, understand what products they were, and be able to meet that demand. And so what we were really looking for was a partner that would help us do that while also increasing efficiency of the work that we're doing, because as a smaller organization, it's not like we can just go out and hire 15 more underwriters and the operational staff to support it. So we're looking for both operational efficiency and then product diversification, and which isn't the easiest thing to do, especially when you're doing products that aren't exactly off-the-shelf products. Our main product is fiduciary liability for multi-employer health and welfare and pension plans. Not every system offers that. So our RFP process, like yours, was a little long, a little tortured, working through, and it basically trying to fit that narrow window.
And Jim, a startup.
Well, we had a very unique situation, startup. I showed up about a little over 3 years ago. I was number 20 in the company. We had nothing. We basically had 0365. So we were starting from scratch. So we had to not only build the business, we had to build the product lines, we had to hire the underwriters, and more importantly, I had to hire my technical staff. So while we were trying to build the employee base, we had a very good idea, the few folks that started with the company, how we wanted to build it, learning from lessons of 25 years. We knew we wanted to build a very strong foundation in our policy, admin, billing, and claims. Would mostly be off-the-shelf software. We thought that our data strategy would be a custom-built platform. Our ERP would be a SaaS platform. And then we would also look for dealing with the customer management, submission management. Those would be custom-built in-house, all enabled through API stacks. So what we did was we evaluated the environment, identified the various major players in the industry, did an RFP with our business partners, similar to what Lauren did. We selected Majesco policy and billing as our two cornerstones for our insurance side of the house. And then we had to find our SI base. So we interviewed SIs that were out there, partnered with two very large SIs that we've had very great success with, and then basically started our build in October of that year. And 4 months later, we were live. We were up with 8 lines of business, 20 different products, and we built it from submission all the way to our ERP solution with 20 different product teams running simultaneously. And I think the one thing how we operated was working with the business. We had a big cultural innovation piece that we had to deal with. Was they were very used to. There was 2 perceptions that were going on. One was, well, I just came here, everything's going to be automatically happening, which is wasn't true because it was a build out. And 2 was they were very used to the waterfall methodology. So we really implemented a full-blown agile shop. So we were developing software in tandem with them and dropping code with them. And they really found it very, very useful, and that we were able to pivot and change on a dime and keep things within a spec and then get out, and then we'd come back later and constantly improve. So that was really our basis of our journey.
So I think it really highlights, the speed to market when you don't have the legacy. It allows you to do some things, but even with legacy, you can get there in a really effective way. So now that you have kind of this new business model, operating model, and technology foundation in place, how are you guys extending that to optimize the business? How are you bringing in new efficiencies and productivity into the operation? How are you bringing new products to market? And how are you keeping a focus on being nimble and agile? Because it's easy to kind of get comfortable and you got to kind of keep that kind of attitude of nimble and agility. So, Craig, maybe you want to start.
Sure. I mean, as I alluded to in my prior response, I mean, what we're looking for constantly is what ways can we improve the effective underwriting time of the underwriters, of the billing folks, because we've gone with a whole suite, by the way, too. So we have claims, billing, we're also doing data warehouse and reporting. What ways can we utilize the capabilities that we've now brought on board to reduce the amount of time we're spending, to be able to have the time to start thinking about all of the product diversification and being able to query our client base about what it is they're looking for. We're trying to maintain, because again, we're a smaller organization with limited resources, we're not trying to just roll out things that we think they'll want. We're trying to, at the same time, query them, make sure what it is that they need, what kind of products they're looking for. And overall, I think that the efficiencies we've gained with implementing the new system, better data reporting, better data models, has taken away some of that churn that we used to have. That's been our number one focus for now, while looking forward to future products. So.
And Jim, from your perspective?
Yeah, we implement the concept of product teams. So we have self-contained technical teams working with the business. So basically, it's a self-empowered team that works and prioritizes. They plan typically 2 to 3 months out in terms of the roadmap. We overall have a roadmap operationally across the enterprise for the year, but that changes drastically as the business conditions change. So really working with our business partners to do, how can we develop requirements faster? How can we implement things quicker? A typical product for us used to take 12 weeks to bring to market, which a product to us would be a rating engine, 120 forms, support all endorsement transactions, all the way from submission all the way down to our ERP solution, claims, data. We can do that now, we can now do it in 9 weeks. So the one thing we did find was we could move so fast, sometimes it was too fast for the business. So sometimes we ratcheted it back because we were actually putting a lot of pressure on them to move very quickly, and they also have to build a business. So really that model works very, very well. And as a startup, you know, it worked really well. We've done a similar approach in a previous company. It worked well, but it's definitely a cultural shift. It's definitely about shifting left. And it's really about trusting our teams and really empowered teams, and also everything automated. So everything we've done in terms of our pipelines, in terms of our QA testing is all automated. So a part of any deliverable, they have to include that as part of the pipelines, as well as the automation to be considered a successful release in our organization.
And Lauren, I know you guys are rolling out a lot of products as well.
Absolutely, and very quickly as well. And I like that comment, almost too fast for the business. So I guess for us, and I think one thing that's important to know about Convex and about our strategy is from the get-go, our hiring strategy was to only hire people that are strategic to the business and to outsource the rest. So to give you a flavor of that, Convex in the UK grew last year to $4 billion in top line, and they did that with only 450 employees because the rest they were able to use through a BPO and contractor model. We took that same approach when we set up the US, which really kind of turned underwriters sideways when they realized that they weren't going to have underwriting assistants, USAs, USMs sitting side by side, being able to issue quotes, issue binders, follow up on subjectivities. So for us, a technology platform was key in order to drive that level of efficiency, because we needed to create the engagement model between the underwriter and the BPO. Our BPO sits in India, and we needed a platform that would have that level of engagement. What's been great about Core Connect, and I mentioned this, one of the things that we wanted to have was we knew that the platform, was built on modern technology, had fully extensible APIs, because we knew that we would test other technologies around there. We're currently in MVP with a company called Send, who has worked incredible with the Core Connect team and has been able to build this underwriting workflow with Core Connect, trading APIs back and forth, but giving the underwriter real visualization into their submission, and allowing them to prioritize where they want to work, but also allowing them to see in real time what the BPO is doing and all the handoffs between the BPO and the underwriter. And so this this kind of engagement model, I would say, is incredibly important in, how we work today, which for many of us is in a remote environment where you're on your computer and you can do those handoffs in real time, and be able to see your business in real time. And so it's added a tremendous amount of efficiency for our business and allows us to operate at a much lower expense cost basis.
When you have that foundation in place now, you guys can really begin to focus in on innovation. I think that, we often talk about innovation and everybody thinks it's like, oh, it's just using a new technology. It might be how you engage with your distribution. It might be how you engage with your customers. It might be a new product or a new market. Talk about what the technology foundation has allowed you to do that you could not do before. Jim, do you want to comment?
Yeah, I mean, it's when I first joined Vantage, it was about tech-driven and data enablement, and the word you used, foundation versus innovation, was thrown around a lot. And I said something once. I said, if we build the foundation right, we'll be the most innovative company because we're not going to be fighting fires. We've stood up everything that now we can build the rest of the house about it, because as long as you have a strong foundation, which unfortunately many companies don't, because through acquisition or growth or whatnot, it's very difficult, and it's very difficult to play catch up. So first of all, the foundation we've built is very strong. We're always constantly keeping current by upgrading too. So whenever, we don't have the concept of technical debt, but now we can do the innovative things. So if there are API stacks, especially like in the Majesco suite, we can take advantage of those. How are we going to ingest data that we can now populate in there? Where can we be looking at new ML models, right? Where can we start looking into AI to streamline certain processes? So that takes that technical lift off the back end, which is so burdensome. And then that way you can start concentrating. And you don't need a lot of people working on it either. In the innovation space, our data scientist partner are actually writing the code, and then they just give it to us and we just enable it, and we plug the models into our platforms. So it really lifts that piece of it. But I think the important thing is you constantly got to stay on the foundation. You cannot keep your eye off the foundation, because if you keep it current, it will always allow you to go up and keep your costs down, by the way. So that's the model we've incurred.
Lauren, what about you?
I was going to say, I think getting the underwriters out of the policy admin, being able to surface the insights from the policy admin to the underwriters, but making sure that, they can see what's going on, but they're not the ones that are actually having to operate in that environment. And the only way that you can do that is if you can kind of create it as more of an engagement platform, having the handoffs. But for us, that's allowed the underwriters to have more time with their clients and brokers, and has given them the level of data and insights they need to really understand their client and broker's business. And that's been the biggest advantage.
And Craig, you're kind of in a unique situation, because not only you're providing property and casualty types of products, you're doing life, annuity, and health-related products, and you're on both platforms of Majesco, and that's giving you kind of a unique opportunity that we talked about. Kind of talk about that.
Sure, absolutely. One of the things, especially kind of coming from one of the things you referenced of older or legacy systems and not maybe necessarily having the ideal foundation you would like, we are now looking to integrate, because we have, at Ullico, there's 3 different business units who are all selling to the same client base. And prior to this process we've started here over the last couple of years, we had no idea if life and health was selling to IBW 123 and whether property and casualty was, or where the investments were also. And with a strategic initiative of trying to penetrate the market deeper, our best thing is to know who's our super buyers, who've bought 2 out of 3. And as we work to integrate that data, also having an understanding that when I talk across business units, I'm also talking to someone who's partnered with the same vendor, is making the language and the synthesis of that easier. It's again, creating efficiencies of trying to find ways to make sure that we can not only implement the change we want to change, get to a good foundation that we want to have, but then also make sure we're responding to the marketplace and doing what we need to do.
Yeah, and I think one of the things you all 3 keep talking about is data. data and analytics and insights and being able to make better decisions. How are you guys leveraging access to the data out of your core systems that you're using? And what is making the difference in the business? Lauren, do you want to kind of comment?
Sure. So we leverage all the data through the data warehouse out of the Core Connect platform, and we surface all that data in real time to our underwriters using MI. We use a tool, Power BI, in house, but it's incredible when you're able to give underwriters the data in real time on their portfolios. And I think we've been able to do that because of not having legacy platforms. A little bit about what Craig said, when you can face a broker or client and truly understand what they're buying from you, what products, how many submissions they're giving you, what their hit ratio is, what you're winning, what you're losing. It just makes a lot more meaningful discussions, and it empowers the underwriter to have, a higher level of discussion with their brokers and clients. And so we have been able to kind of leverage all that production data, operational data, and we're utilizing that in real time.
Jim, you're a data tech-enabled company. How are you doing that?
It's very similar. It's interesting to see how Craig and Lawrence, both their companies, we're kind of in very similar shoes, even though we do some things a little bit different. There are a couple different business models. All our data is replicated real time to a lake. So we have full-blown data access to that between the data scientists and as well as the actuaries. But then we also roll that data up to management into, we actually have two data warehouses, one for reinsurance, one for insurance, but those are being rolled up. We could actually run the warehouse every 5 minutes if we wanted to. We just run it nightly. So that's really more for managerial reporting as well as our financial close processes. But basically, we have management reporting, which we use in BI, that the underwriters live on. And, they see exactly where they are with their book. They know where they are with their plan. We can see if they're high or they're low with their plan. They can see their claims frequency, their severity. They're also able to see opportunities since we actually have a unified model of customer. So we've mastered every customer. So we have a unique instance of it with a hierarchy. So we also see where there's opportunities of cross-sell. We also have a portfolio view. So an underwriter can take a look at their portfolio compared to the portfolio of like lines of business. And we are in the process of building a portfolio view that actually crosses both insurance and reinsurance. Plus we write similar lines in some cases. So we can see that. And then you also be able to get to see holistic views of where the broker is, various brokerages. So we could see, okay, where are the brokers that we're doing really well with? Where's the others we got to concentrate? So the data platform is, we started that day one because we had myself and a colleague of mine, data's king, applications flash, even though applications are really good. If you don't have good data, you're behind the game. So, and having really pure data, and on top of it, we balance it nightly. So we know if it matches, and if there is an issue, we go resolve it. So we're constantly looking at it.
Yeah, Craig.
Absolutely. To what everyone else up here has said, it is the data unification. I mean, coming from where we were not only across legacy systems, we had different systems for different lines of business for the same clients, trying to get a holistic view while at the same time trying to attract partnerships of new carriers to provide new products to our affinity space. It was, I think the best way to say it was nightmarish at times. And being able to get a better view of not only, and we had a very rich data history. We had data history going back 30 years, but assembling that together was usually, unfortunately, turning to some guy in the office and saying, please, can you make some model of this? And unfortunately, we found that trying to get new partners and saying, no, we're good, trust us, wasn't as effective a model as actually being able to provide the data in a unified source. It's helped us look towards that growth and start implementing on the strategic initiatives we want to do.
So each of you have been able to accomplish a lot, but picking the right partner mattered because it's a risky business. These are often, Jim, I've often heard the term, it's a game-changing, career-ending decision for CIOs. I was one of those once. They're expensive, they're strategic, and picking that right partner matters. And obviously, you guys picked some of our solutions, but you're also working with other partners too and leveraging that. What is the criteria you guys were looking for, both in the short term, and now that you're up and running, what are you expecting of your partners going forward. So Lauren, do you want to start?
Sure. I mean, those are both really good questions. For us, it comes really down to culture when you're picking a partner. There's so many great solutions out there. And when we were going through the RFP process, you know, you go through this list of requirements, business requirements, technical requirements, and you find that you're not going to find someone that meets 100%, right? But you're going to find pros and cons. But it's a really important process to go through because you really meet the team. One thing that was really important to us when we were starting, and we were a startup, very similar to Vantage, is that you know, we didn't want to have to yet use an SI. You know, we were only 3 people hiring one product line. The SI felt very heavy. In the Core Connect platform, it was going to be fully sourced by the employees of DRC that Majesco has now acquired. And it felt nimble, it felt light, it felt agile. As I said, they only did the policy admin, so they did not have all the bells and whistles. The truth is, we actually looked at Majesco as well, and they were the second one that we wanted. But it was, when we were feeling kind of like we were 3 people deciding the tech platform, it felt that it had so many different things that we could do. It almost like we needed to grow up before we could get there. And that's really where the entry point for us, for Core Connect, was spot on. But just about the culture, I think it's really important to look at your team and how your team operates, and finding a partner that is very similar. And we really found that in the Core Connect team.
Craig?
My answer is very similar to Lauren's. Because of the size of our organization, we knew that this is not a process we're going to go through every 3 years. We need to be able to find a partnership that could be long-term, understood our values, and understood our mission. I always, you know, when I'm talking about Ullico, I make the joke, if for whatever reason the labor union market isn't making money or isn't profitable for us, it's not like we can switch to restaurants. We have to find some way to make it profitable and to be able to deliver the product. So being able to impress that mission upon Majesco, have Majesco understand that, understand what our restraints were, long-term became the absolute, I think, guiding light in the decision-making of the partnership.
Jim? And what are you expecting of us now?
Culture is definitely very important, but I think where we were very successful was our approach. So we had an implementation approach that we developed in-house, and basically we provided the information to the SIs. They then had to tell us how they would implement a couple product lines, you know, the way they would do it. And those that presented it the way our approach is were the ones that won it. So those teams right now we're running probably about 25 teams with our SIs. No SI operates independently. We have we always have an employee and a product manager that's an employee that's working with the team. Sometimes we have a lead or 2 working with them on top of it. But other than that, the engineers, the QA, and the analysts are SIs. They're an empowered team. They're empowered to make decisions. We coach them on a weekly basis. I meet with all the teams weekly. And we also, we feel that the SIs are part of Vantage. And we have a retention rate that is extremely high. It's about 1% that we're losing members of SIs, which is unheard of when you're dealing with offshoring. And we really preach that failure is okay. Failure should be celebrated, and sometimes we do fail, but we know when we fail fast enough, and then we can correct it. But the teams are really empowered to work and think outside the box and come up with creative ways, and that's really what's really different about our model that I've seen in other companies.
So I've got a question from the audience. I'm going to pose to first Lauren and then you, Jim. As a new business startup, how did you, let me see here, I've got to read this a little bit. How did you get those early customers? And how do you differentiate yourselves from the trusted existing companies?
So I feel like I can relate to whoever asked that question because it's it's a bit different when you're starting in a market with a brand new product or brand new technology. I mean, we were starting in the market with products that have been out there for many years, tried and trusted, and we hired incredible talent that had the brokers and customers, and we put a bit of a different spin on it. With how we're facing the market and with our technology platform and how we're able to service our customers. But for us, with acquiring the customers in distribution, a lot was in the talent model that we brought in, and people with 15 years of experience that had books of business, that had their reputation, that traded off of their reputation, and that really helped kind of boost us in the beginning. We weren't launching products that was ground up, having to acquire, having to sell that product in the market. These are products that have been traditionally built, but so much in the early days is being able to service the customer. And one strategy that we had was having very limited distribution, especially as we're building our technology platform. If we can't service the customer, we can't get them back a quick response, we can't get that quote out, we can't get that bind order out as fast as possible, we fail. And so ultimately, it was around how do you create that distribution very narrow in the beginning while you're building the tech and you're building the efficiencies within the platform to service the customer. And once you have that, open it up. And that has been a really important strategy for our success.
Jim?
I think our approach is very similar, especially in the specialty market, offering products that are available by all the other carriers. But it was, once again, I think Lauren mentioned it, it's bringing in very senior experts in this industry and building that with their books of business and trying to then penetrate other books of business. The other piece, which Lauren also mentioned, was service. How fast can we actually issue a quote? We were able to measure how fast we can actually do complicated risk quotes and policy issuance. The efficiencies are probably about 80% faster than what they've had at other companies. So, and we want to even top that. So it's about the ability to turn around a quote to a broker very quickly. And we've had situations where we've had a broker, I was sitting there at lunch, even on an airplane. They did the quote on the airplane, boom, done, and off they were running. So just like these little anecdotes, but it's really about service. It's really about partnering and understanding what the broker is. It's also just the expertise of the underwriting, and it's also on the claim servicing too. Yeah. So really, how do you operate and how do you really provide that excellent service in the area of claims? We don't have a lot of them since we're new, but that is something we pride ourselves on.
So Craig, a unique question for you. One of the big issues established insurance companies has is quality of legacy data. How do you ensure you have and keep good data?
Constant monitoring, vigilance. I wish I could say that there was one of the things that when we did our build out through Majesco, we integrated a legacy feed into a landing table, then have it come to the data. Those systems were waning off. And honestly, a lot of what we've also managed is through our monthly recon process of financials and premiums and things, looking to make sure that everything is in line, kind of setting up a cross-check process. I wish I could say there was some magic bullet to that. For us, it's mostly been just vigilance and making sure to look at the process, and in a sense, trying to tie disparate processes together to make sure that they're all tying in the end to show that there is some kind of uniform data that not only includes what we're bringing in new, but our legacy data, and that it makes sense.
Yeah, and even Jim and Lauren, you guys are now kind of legacy because you've been how are you keeping your data quality?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I mean, Convex Group actually releases bots on their data quality. So they're able to use bot technology to cross-check data. We haven't done that yet, but I'm laughing because it's incredible how quick you become legacy. I'm hoping that we don't call ourselves legacy just yet. We might have like another year or two. But there's definitely some interesting ways, but data quality is a really important issue. And, being able to use technology to help cross-check is much better than asking underwriters if their portfolios look right. But yes, it's has not been an issue for us just yet, but I think, we're kind of gearing up for what kind of tools we're going to need to release in the future.
Jim?
Yeah, I mean, we set up a data quality program and data governance day one. So we built that into our framework so that we're constantly monitoring the quality of our data. On top of it, we have a data governance where we're trying to normalize our data across, just common reference data across the organization, as well as ingesting data from external areas. So yeah, it's vigilant. And once again, it's one of those things you got to constantly stay on top of. As you grow organically, it's easy. Now, if there's an acquisition, it can be a whole different ballgame, and that's where the fun starts. But it really goes back to where I talk to my staff and the COO, and I look at it as it's culture. And the people that are going to come join us, it's our culture, and this is how we're going to operate. And if you want to join and come, this is what you're going to do. There could be some challenges, and could be, especially in an acquisition of legacy. But once again, these things can be accomplished, but you just got to be vigilant and constantly working at it and chip away at it. Small wins.
Another quick question. I'll let any one of you or all of you reply. Pivoting effectively, quickly is key for success. How do you drive business agility in your businesses continually?
So I think we have a separation of duties in that at Ullico, we have our business unit, then we have the IT unit, and we have our vendor, right? And it's a triangle upon which we really rely. One of the things we drilled in from the very beginning of our RFP process is that the business unit is not to be figuring out what the use solutions are. What do you need done? We go into our IT vendor and then to our own IT department. We're always trying to arrive at a thing that arrives at the quickest solution with the least amount of operational lift, that at the same time is looking long-term. What we've always done is, to use the phrase, it's an old saying, make haste slowly. We would rather set up a process that can be then re-implemented than to let's get this immediate solution done and then move on, because then we might be 6 months down the line trying to undo that to integrate it into. So we're always trying to kind of keep one eye down the road and one eye forward, and sort of, to a certain extent, staying in our lane of, well, I want to be able to press this button, do this. No, you need to produce a quote. What is that?
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I think it's important when you're building out your 90-day operation plans or building out how you're going to get all your products onboarded to your policy admin system, is that you're able to recognize that you're going to need to pivot quickly. And as the business is growing, there's going to be different needs and different changes. And as you're trying to do one thing, that's going to delay you on doing something else. So really understanding kind of the waterfall effects of where you're spending time with your technology vendor. And I agree with Craig, like taking that off of the business is bringing you the problems, you're bringing them the solutions, but you're going to have to be able to prioritize where you're going to get the biggest lift in the business by which solutions. And so like for us, some of our business lines right now in the market, they have unprecedented rate conditions. Capacity is retrenching for various lines of business. And so we have this opportunity of getting out there and growing that business line quite quickly. And so, where does that become a priority of how we engage? And it might mean that for another business line, like they kind of fall back. And so I think having this diverse portfolio, but also with the technology platform, being able to pivot quickly and decide, and it's okay if you're going to have to pause development on something because something takes more precedent matter.
Yeah, I very similar to both of you, by the way. And really, our underwriters really, they come in and they really want the building built, right? So everything's got to be perfect, and we're going to go, well, it's not going to be like that. We're going to do a thing called, MVP. We're going to give you something that's going to work, and then we're going to improve it. And they kind of scratch their heads and they go, well, we're used to, it's going to take a year to build. They said, we're going to get something out in 2 to 3 months, or maybe sometimes even faster. Some of the stuff we can build in a month, and then we're just going to constantly work on it. And if you're a business where there is a lot of profitability, the market's really expanding, we'll throw more resources at it and build it faster. And then we can always tranche. Once again, we plan 3 months out. That's all we do from technology. We have a roadmap, but we really know what we're going to build over the next 3 months max, and we only do requirements for a maximum of 6 weeks out. So that way we can just sit there. We're not wasting anyone's time, and we can spin it. We drop it in front of them. They can say, that's not what we wanted. We wanted to do it this way. We can go, okay, send it off, and 2 days later we come back and we're done and we're off in the races. They're like, can you actually use this in production? Yes, done. Because once you build something and they actually use it, probably going to change it, especially if they're thinking 9 months down the road. So the faster you get in front of them, they use it, and you just incrementally increase it, you have a very high likelihood of being successful. And then the business starts thinking agile, how they can pivot and turn, and it actually helps with their servicing of their customers.
Okay, last question, and it's a fast one. You get 15 seconds. What's next and what excites you? Lauren.
Well, we were just talking about Gen AI. So I have to see this. So I'm going to be talking to our Core Connect guys in the back really quickly after this, but I'm definitely very excited about the efficiencies that it can bring to us, both our underwriters and our BPOs and contractors.
Craig.
Very quick, because of our partnership with Majesco and what's coming, things change so fast. 24 months ago, we weren't talking about Gen AI at all. Now we are. We're trying to plan it. Basically, our ability to consume what's coming next. Exciting about what's down the line.
And Jim.
I would say AI and data analytics are the two biggest things of how we can use our data to make better decisions and faster decisions moving forward.
All right. Please help me thank these three leaders, and feel free to connect with them after the session. Thank you, guys.